stocks. In fact, the index itself is down more than 3% on the back of this. But shifting focus to some national and global stories then, President Vladimir Putin begins a two-day visit to India for the 23rd India-Russia summit. This will be his first trip since the Ukraine war reshaped global alignments and defense supply chains. Moscow is expected to firm up a new military pact. Sumita Karir is now joining us with more details on what is on his agenda. Sumita?
In fact, in a press conference held yesterday, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov stated that India-Russia ties are not just a standard of diplomatic protocols, but these ties have a deep historical background. And that really sums up the context of the summit, the tone of the summit. In fact, Mr. Peskov also stated that we need to fix the trade imbalance. He recognized that India has a concern with the trade imbalance, and trade is going to be high on the agenda as far as this visit by President Putin is concerned. He's set to arrive in India tomorrow. And of course, as far as trade is concerned, well, there will be pharma, transportation routes, scientific cooperation along with agri and some other sectors that will be looked at. And that is something that government sources have also told ET now. The government sources are suggesting that negotiations with the EAEU FTA have started. The first round of discussions has already happened. That happened last week. And of course, both the sides are looking at having an agreement in place soon. Sources are also telling ET now that in terms of fixing the trade imbalance with Russia, we could look at several levels of exports, including marine products, including the exports of pomegranates and potato, which have started last month, looking at pharma products and textiles also to get exported from India. So correcting the trade deficit, well, that's high on the agenda as well. More importantly, government sources have also told ET now that since there is a lot of discussion around this visit happening at a very significant time, when there is global pressure from Donald Trump, government sources said that this visit should essentially be looked at from a lens of being a bilateral annual visit. And there are several documents that will be signed on important economic and trade matters. Now, coming back to what Mr. Peskov stated, that he said, as far as sanctions are concerned, he said that Russia considers those sanctions illegal and that some countries might not like a trade expansion. However, that should not bother India and Russia. And of course, he also stated that they're looking at creating a mechanism between India and Russia wherein third countries have no impact on bilateral ties. And he also stated that we have to secure our trade, which ensures mutual benefits. Other than that, he did discuss about the defense agenda. He said that more acquisition of the S-400s is on the agenda. The Sukhoi 57s, that is on the agenda as well. And of course, setting up of small nuclear reactors, that's another thing that's high on the agenda of this visit.
All eyes on Putin's visit to India over the next few days. Sumita, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. But let's keep it going with that story then. And sources tell ET now that India is eyeing 10,000 crore deal for Russian missiles during President Putin's visit. My colleague Srinjoy is now joining us with more details on this.
This has already been cleared by the Defense Acquisition Council headed by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. India has 3 S-400 systems. 2 more are expected from Russia next year. So these are the 5 contracted for. Now these systems need missiles. And about 300 of them are going to be purchased from Russia. And the cost will be about 10,000 crore. Now this decision by the government, by the DSE, comes before the Putin visit. That much is clear. But 5 more are required by the Indian Air Force, and that process is already on, in the sense that eventually India will have 10 S-400 systems for the defense, for the air defense of the country. Apart from that, there has been talk of the Su-57 fighter aircraft, a 5th generation fighter aircraft. But so far, the Defense Ministry hasn't really seen the aircraft at all. So the question of any serious discussions this time on the Su-57 is not there. So what we do know is that there will be no defense-related announcements. No deals are to be signed this time. and this is a traditional thing, never during one of these big visits is a defense deal signed. But this requirement for about 300 S-400 missiles is there. The Defense Acquisition Council has cleared it, and this will happen in due course.
Srinjoy, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. But that's all the time we have on this edition of the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Market Fatafat will come up next.